Hello everyone, and welcome back to Gamers Elf's Loft. Come in, sit back, relax, listen to me ramble. Now, we all want to do the D&D YouTube thing, as I'm doing right now. You also wouldn't mind being the next Critical Role, or Legend of Adventurous, or every other somewhat successful D&D online group. But recording without your players knowing and streaming it is a whole lot worse. That's the story I have for you today. It is a bit of a long one. There is some bigotry warnings, but who doesn't have bigotry nowadays? But all I can say is that you have to ask for consent. Sit back, relax, listen to me ramble. Story today comes from RPG Horror Stories from IllScribe404. DM Fries, my first ever character in a TPK, streams games without our consent. This is a long one, sort of a brain dump reflection on a situation that happened a while ago. This happened when I was still in high school. Looking back, I can't believe I stayed in the game for as long as I did. However, I was young, nerdy, and desperate to try out this dragon game I've heard so much about. I also had a severe tendency to people please, even if I was uncomfortable in situations. Now, fortunately, I've grown and can look back with perspective on how weird this was. I met our DM through school as we shared a lot of interests and we were in a few classes and clubs together. I was either a freshman or sophomore at this time and he was in a grade above me. When he mentioned that he was into D&D and he invited me to join a game that he DM'd, I was super excited. I also wanted to play, but the closet I'd gotten into before was researching the game on my own and watching and listening to a few popular actual plays online. I told him that I knew very little about the mechanics and I was willing to learn. We had a preliminary call where we designed my first ever character in D&D 5e, a tiefling artificer. I remember asking, "So what's your angle here? Like a little girl with a big sword sort of character?" I was confused as I hadn't indicated that this was what I'd been aiming for at all. I wanted his character to be a badass sharpshooter inventor with a mechanical mount. Regardless, after sorting out the details, I felt confident about session 1. It was an online game using voice call. Since it was an ongoing campaign, he sort of just threw my character into what the party was already up to, which was a war zone. There was some high concept magical war going on, where the party was a group of special forces invading the enemy's secure military base. The first session was a blur. I wasn't oriented at all on context of what was supposed to be doing. I tried to offer support where I could, but I felt like my character's presence had nothing to do with the story. I was also the only female player, and I felt constantly talked over by the party, who were all good friends already, and had at least several years older than I was. The weirdest part I remember about this first arc was that before the actual invasion plan kicked off, there was suddenly a bathing scene at our home base with the whole party present. We've done very little roleplay at all before this point. Run. Far and fast. If this is how we're starting first session of your first ever campaign as you ever first play in D&D, run fast. No. This is not Starship Troopers. We're not doing a sudden co-ed bathing scene. This ain't happening. I remember the DM asking, "OP, do you get in?" while everyone waited for my response in awkward silence. I said that no, my character would sit to the side and prepare her equipment for the upcoming battle. The whole scene was played for laughs, with the guys snickering the whole time. The vibes were generally very uncomfortable and bizarre. This was supposed to be a game about slaying dragons, and now we're doing an anime-esque bath scene. It literally felt like an in-game fan service. Once we got the actual invasion plan, my character ended up being nominated to stealth ahead the enemy's base camp as part of our larger plan. As I rolled for stealth, I started to scout, an armored general appeared out of nowhere on a dragon mount and torched my character to death in a single round. An opportunity for healing, nothing. Just got fried to a crisp. I barely got used to any of her abilities and she was perma-dead. Over the rest of the session, which I had to just sit and watch, the rest of the party also fell one by one, and it was extremely a sudden TPK. So let me get this straight. Anime bath scene, then sudden death, then have to stay and watch the rest of the party. Already 2 strikes. I'm not hoping for a third. DM sort of apologized for the fluke, saying that his games tend to be very intense and high stakes, and we need to be on high alert. He allowed us to continue the same plot, but this time our party will be on the opposite side of the conflict. Don't ask me why I stayed after the first arc. I guess I was caught in the euphoria of having a group to play with and determined to have fun regardless. I thought that maybe I was just playing the game wrong, or I hadn't been careful enough to avoid being taken out by a dragon. Despite the TPK ending of the session, I do have to say that the mission had seemed pretty suspenseful and exciting. Plus, I still wanted to see what all the hype was about. Surely D&D could be better than this, right? In the next arc, our party was a group of mid-level mercenaries who were infiltrating a magic school where the enemy was supposedly training dangerous spellcasters for their cause. The logic the party decided on was just to burn the school, torturing the students within just for learning magic on the wrong side of the war. I get that sometimes games are built around playing evil or morally corrupt characters to make an interesting story. However, this didn't feel good at all. It felt like an extreme murder hobo play mixed with the worst kind of power fantasy. Being such a new player though, I didn't know what to do but go along with the party's plan. I didn't have the will or tools to push back, so my high-dex tabaxi fighter spent his time smashing oil lamps to add to the blaze while the party members stormed the other floors. This earned the approval of my group, who applauded my destructive tactics. Around this time is when I started to lose hope that the game would change for the better. It seemed to devolve into endless combat slog for a bloody cause that neither I nor my newly rolled character would give a reason to believe in. Out of game, I was pretty decent friends with the DM. One day he casually mentioned that he likes to stream our games on Twitch and had been doing so for a while. This completely caught me off guard. What I thought had been private, casual game sessions were being broadcast weekly to his audience. This icked me out enough that I finally said I wasn't comfortable continuing the game. Buddy, you ended your game right then and there by telling people that you were streaming the game without their consent. I get when things get attention and everything. I get that. That's awesome. My videos are getting somewhat good views. Cool. If no one knows but you that they're in this video for content, that's not good. That should have been a red flag for yourself, bro. You should have kept it quiet. We still saw each other constantly due to our school schedules, but eventually we drifted apart for some other reasons. When I was talking about my college plans, he sent me paragraphs long tirade about why women and gender studies were a complete waste of time that contributed nothing to society, and why I shouldn't be a feminist. Not that it matters, but I wasn't even planning to major in WGST. This was one of the red flags that made me cut him off entirely and really recontextualize the weirdness of our past D&D games for me. Back then, I thought, it has to be better than this. And it turns out I was right. Whenever I feel uncertain as a DM or worry about including my players enough, I just think, do the opposite of whatever this guy was doing. It works every time. Never settle for bad D&D. If you don't feel comfortable, never be afraid to just walk away. End of story. That is what I'm talking about when it comes to owning up to responsibilities, and then also when you realize you had enough, you know you are better, just walk away. You did it, you got it done, and now you are a better DM for it. I am proud of you, OP. That is how it's supposed to be done. Never be afraid to say no and walk away. That is my tagline now for all videos. The greatest power any D&D player has is the power to say no. Good on you, OP. Stay safe. I am proud of you. Now, that being said, hope you guys had a good time. Be safe and enjoy my forest hovel. Farewell.